This video is brought to you by AudioQuest, makers of the Dragonfly range of USB DACs. Click to AudioQuest.com for more information.
We recently made a video about the Samsung QN90A Smart TV and how to use it as a music streaming source. And we found that the Tidal app that runs on that smart TV does not play gaplessly. And it's the same situation, so no gapless, with the Plex app running on that smart TV. And even if we went over to third-party streamers, like the Google Chromecast with Google TV and the Xiaomi Mi Box S, those same two apps, Plex and Tidal, running on those devices, not gapless. In fact, the only way we can get gapless from the QN90A, well, in that video, was to use Spotify, so the native Spotify app on the QN90A, or the Spotify app that runs on either of the third-party streamers. Adding insult to injury is that the Tizen OS that runs on the Samsung QLED TV, it resamples all audio to 48 kilohertz. That means 44.1 gets upsampled to 48, and 96 kilohertz and 192 kilohertz are downsampled to 48. And we know this because external DACs taking a Toslink out of the TV show 48 kilohertz. Trying to show the 48 kilohertz coming from HDMI ARC is a little bit trickier, but the Lyngdorf TDAI-1120 does give us a readout in its app as to what's coming into it over HDMI. And from the Samsung TV, the QLED QN90A, 48 kilohertz. So no high res for you. Come back 1 year. Now, I've since upgraded my TV to Samsung's 2022 edition Frame TV. It's still a smart TV, but the blacks aren't as deep as they were on the outgoing QLED, which is a shame, really. And there's definitely evidence of that dirty screen effect, like this sort of blotchiness, especially when the screen is black. But these are two compromises that I am prepared to make because the Samsung Frame can display classic and contemporary artwork, you can probably see it behind me, when the TV is in standby mode. So we don't get any of that sort of black mirror effect that we get from an off TV, because I think off TVs look terrible. And the other thing I really like about the Frame is all the electronics, or most of them, sit in an outboard box. And that's on the bottom shelf of my hi-fi rack behind me. And that means you can only see one cable coming down the wall beneath the TV that is mounted to the wall. So it's, the cabling's very discreet. That's a real bonus. And the Samsung QLED that I sent back to Amazon was 43 inches. The Frame here is 55 inches. And once I put it on the wall, I connected my Google Chromecast with Google TV to that sort of outboard box. But I didn't connect the Xiaomi. Instead, I went out and bought an Apple TV 4K. And I connected that to one of the HDMI inputs on that outboard box because I wanted to see what music streaming was like on that Apple TV 4K. We'll start with some general thoughts. So the remote control that comes with the Apple TV 4K, I love it because you can click around the menu system, but you can also swipe. And once you've started swiping, it's really hard to go back to other remote controls. The other thing that I really like is that the interface is Fisher Price Simple. It's nice and clean, and it's not cluttered up with like recommended movies and recommended YouTube videos. It's just all the apps on the homepage. There is one bar at the top, I think, that recommends stuff from Apple Music, but it's still a nice clean look. And it's much snappier, that's the Apple word from about 10 years ago, isn't it? But the interface is much snappier or much more responsive when navigating with the remote than the interface on the Frame. And in fact, the Frame's own sort of Tizen OS interface is a bit sluggish. It's definitely slower than the outgoing QN90A TV. So for me, from the Samsung interface stepping up to the Apple interface, it's quite a big jump in terms of look and feel and responsiveness. So the first thing I did was I connected the little Lyngdorf TDAI-1120 to the Frame TV using HDMI ARC. And then I installed Plex on the Apple TV 4K. But before I hit play on Daft Punk's Alive 2007, I played something else, and the Lyngdorf app reported a sample rate of 48 kilohertz. Because we know from Apple's own website that the Apple TV only supports sample rates up to 48 kilohertz. So again, no high res for you. But playing the Daft Punk album, it's a continuously mixed live album, and it plays gaplessly with Plex on the Apple TV 4K. Oh, I forgot to mention that the operating system that runs on the Apple TV 4K is called tvOS. It has its own app store. So I downloaded the Tidal app to tvOS, and I pulled up an album that I haven't played for years, and that is Future Loop Foundation's Time and Bass. If you can imagine Banco de Gaia doing drum and bass, you'd be not far away from what this sounds like. Again, it's a continuously mixed album. And playing that from Tidal, we only get 48 kilohertz from HDMI and from Toslink. I checked the Toslink output as well. So the Tizen OS must be doing something there as well. It doesn't matter to me because it's a Redbook CD quality stream. It's getting upsampled to 48 kilohertz. Negligible audible difference, I'm guessing, because we can't possibly know. But the big takeaway here is that the Tidal app on tvOS is, you've guessed it, gapless. Now, before you nitpickers get started, yes, 48 kilohertz is technically high-res audio, but I doubt that the many people that subscribe to Qobuz are doing so just for the fairly large amount of 48 kilohertz files in the Qobuz library. And I don't think those users would be very happy that if they were to use the Qobuz app that comes with the Samsung TV, so it runs on Tizen OS, I don't think they'd be happy that that Tizen OS resamples their precious 96 kilohertz files and their 192 kilohertz files. I think that would be a deal breaker for them. And no, there is no Qobuz app for tvOS. Now, one of the major reasons that I bought the Apple TV 4K is because tvOS hosts a native, unsurprisingly, Apple Music app. And I gotta say, it's fantastic. If you don't like the sort of like day glow bright colors, it's going to annoy you, but I think again it's Fisher Price simple for most people to use. And the big advantage that Apple Music have over Spotify is that they have everything in pretty much in CD quality and some things in high-res audio. Now that high-res stuff doesn't matter here because we know that the Apple TV 4K is capped to 48 kilohertz. So again, forget about high-res, but we still get CD quality. And that is, yeah, it's an advantage over Spotify for me. And that's because those CD quality streams from Apple Music, even when they are upsampled to 48 kilohertz, they still sound a little bit better than the lossy streams that come out of the Spotify app. Yeah, it's a small difference that matters to some people. I think that's the thing about taking an interest in sound quality, is the further you go into it, the more those little deltas matter to you. If you're just some kind of casual listener, you might be a bit perplexed by people like me who call out those small differences and how important they are. But that's because you're a casual listener. You haven't gone as far as, say, me or somebody else in the audiophile world has. That's not to say that you're wrong and I'm right. It's just different approaches and therefore different attitudes to those differences in sound quality. Most important of all for me, more than I guess the lossy or the lossless, is that all streams from Apple Music running on the Apple TV 4K playback gaplessly. But that's as long as we stick to stereo playback, which is my sort of meat and potatoes. If we go wandering off into Dolby Atmos / spatial audio territory, as we saw with the Sonos Arc, we get gap playback, and in the case of the Arc, it truncates the start of each song, which is a total no-no, absolute deal breaker. Next up, the brand new LS60 wireless from Kef. Now, the Roon Ready certification process is still ongoing, so they are not Roon Ready at time of taping here, which is one reason to use a TV as a music streaming source. So I have the Kefs connected to the Samsung's outboard electronics box over HDMI ARC, and also the Apple TV 4K connected to that same box. So whatever comes out of the Apple TV goes into the Samsung box and then into the Kef speakers. And that means obviously we get everything sampled to 48 kilohertz, but no matter whether we use Plex or Tidal or Apple Music or Spotify, it's all gapless. And that brings us to the spicy finding for this video. I set up the Apple TV 4K as a Roon endpoint. Not a Roon Ready endpoint, a Roon AirPlay endpoint, because Roon can stream to AirPlay devices. And that means we can control playback from Roon using any kind of Mac or PC or tablet or phone. So there's no real big wow there. What is a wow is an app available on the tvOS App Store called Roon TV Remote, and it sells for about €3. And this app, much like Chromecast devices, can play catch on the now playing screen that comes from Roon, even if we're streaming the audio portion to a different device. So in my situation, I'm streaming the audio to the Apple TV, but also the now playing screen information to the Roon TV Remote app that's running on the Apple TV. God, I hope that's not too complicated. But before this Roon TV Remote app will function properly, you've got to activate it in the extensions panel in Roon's settings. So don't forget that. And the Roon TV Remote app goes much further than Chromecast integration, because we can specify the Roon endpoint or zone that we want it to monitor inside the app. We can change the zone. We can change the volume. We can look at the current now playing queue and move through it. We can even browse through artists and albums, although if you've got a large collection like mine, that can get a little bit clunky. But it's there if you want it. So obviously it's no Roon Remote app replacement, but it really pumps the tires on the Roon experience when controlling it from an Apple TV. And this is only possible with an Apple TV. So this now completes my original plan to put Roon Now playing screens and other Now playing screens and other streaming apps on the wall, so between the speakers, to give me something to look at when streaming music, because that's the big problem with digital audio streaming. There's nothing to look at. Will this stop me crapping on about holding vinyl in my hands or the CD booklets and things like that? Probably not. But it's still, I think, visually impressive and visually striking. And I like that because hi-fi isn't, as vinyl collectors know, hi-fi or audiophile grade, I hate that phrase, but like I guess if you're into good sound quality, the whole listening experience isn't just about that sound quality. It's about how things look, how they feel, but also the tactility of music and also what we look at. If you like this video, please give us a like down below. If you like my attitude towards hi-fi, the listening experience, having something to look at, then please subscribe to this channel. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching. What about other streaming services, John? Sorry, I've got no idea. What about the Amazon Fire Stick TV or whatever it's called? Again, sorry, I've no idea. Now I've since upgraded my TV to a 2022 edition frame. Also, oh my goodness me.
What was that?
That's my fly zapper.
Your killing device?
My killing device.
Oh my god.
But I didn't connect the Xiaomi back. Back? That doesn't sound right. I just feel like I'm having a twitch, a spasm like. Okay.